Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. And I'd like to have a little discussion this morning real quick about an individual tool within my 5-tool rule concept. And I think it's a tool that is greatly overlooked in the bushcraft and woodcraft community. I'm not going to get into that whole bushcraft versus woodcraft argument because I think they're synonymous terms. Both of them really relate to being able to manufacture things off the landscape to make life in camp more comfortable or convenient without having to carry them in. So that tool heavy mentality is what I preach at my school. Carry the tools in and you can make whatever you need from the landscape as long as you have the skills, the knowledge, and the resources are available. Now the awl is a tool within the 5-tool rule that I believe is greatly overlooked in both the bushcraft and woodcraft and survival community in general because it's such a powerful tool for doing so many things when you're making things from the landscape. And let's face it, if we're trying to build things from the landscape, we are going to have to process and manipulate wood and plant material. Metal tools are a key element to that. And if you look back historically, there's actually been metal awls found that were 7,000 years old, made of copper, as recent as 2014, found in Israel. Awls were traded up and down the American frontier and throughout the fur trade to the Native Americans, along with important tools like axes and knives and needles. So awls were a very important thing to all peoples that were either hunter-gatherers or frontiersmen and fur trappers. And the reason for that is they coined this tool the moccasin awl because they used this awl to process holes or to poke or prick holes in leather so that they could then sew it up with some type of rawhide or brain tan lace. And in an environment where we're bushcrafting or woodcrafting, we're going to have to drill holes and bore holes in not only things like leather for our gear for repair or to make something from a scrap piece of leather, but also we're going to have to bore holes in things like barks to be able to lace them up to make containers or baskets. We're going to need bodkin type awls, which I'll show you in a minute, to separate the plaits or the weaves in baskets when we're doing basketry. So awls are a very important tool, and they're more important than most people realize. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about the size of the awl that we carry because there's lots of different sizes available out there. We sell a small trade or moccasin awl on our website, which is probably only about 3.5 or 4 inches long total, and it's sharpened on both ends to squared points. And that is a common trade type moccasin awl for punching holes in thin leathers like brain tan. It would also punch holes in canvas if needed. It can drill holes in barks as well. But if you're going to do a lot of crafting, you're going to want something that is wedge shaped but has a fairly wide diameter on the end of it. In other words, it tapers to about 1/4 of an inch so that as you drill that hole and make it bigger, which is one of the advantages of an awl, you can dictate the size of the hole by the depth you bore with the awl. You're going to want to be able to make bigger holes, especially if you're trying to lace vine and things through bark baskets. So let's look at a couple different awls right now and talk about them and talk about the simplicity of do-it-yourself making awls. I'm going to show you a segment in this video of making an awl very quickly from 1095 an antler. It's going to require a few machines around the shop to get it done, but if you're trying to make something you're going to carry with you forever, it really doesn't take that long to make. And if you've already got common machines in your shop like sanders and drills and things like that, and you have a way to forge the metal or heat it up, even if it's with a rosebud on the end of an acetylene torch and hammer it on a piece of railroad anvil, you can make an awl very, very easily that will last you a lifetime. Okay, so let's first look at this large crafting awl that I created today. And it's basically an antler handle with a wooden hardwood sheath, and it has a 1095 awl on the front of it that tapers down from 1/4 of an inch to 0, and it's 4-sided. This will allow you to drill a very small hole all the way up to 1/4 of an inch hole in anything that you're trying to bore into. And when we're talking about wood crafting or bush crafting, we're going to be manipulating wood and plant fibers for the most part. So our tools have to be able to perform those functions. And that goes back to that 5-tool rule. When you're talking about wood, you have to really be able to do 5 things. You have to be able to split the wood. You have to be able to cross-cut the wood. You have to be able to shape the wood. You have to be able to bore the wood in some fashion, especially when it comes to barks. And you need to be able to hollow the wood or create concavities in the wood. If you have tools that will accomplish those 5 tasks, you can make just about anything you want to make from wood. Now, in a small kit, like a bushcrafting kit, an awl will give you plenty big enough holes in anything you need to be able to create usable objects. In a longer term scenario, your boring device may become something like an auger bit. But you're going to want multiple auger bits, because if you just have one Scotch-eyed auger, you're limited to one size hole. So the advantage to this in the short term is multiple sizes of holes that I can bore or drill with a single tool. Now, again, that's a crafting awl. This would be a larger kit type awl. This is one of my tool rolls that I carry a lot of the time in a camping scenario or a base camp scenario. And I've got an extra awl in there just to show you guys. And this is what I would call a bodkin awl. And it's an awl on one side that's 4-sided and sharp, just like the awl I showed you a minute ago. But on the opposite side, where you would have another awl in a crooked awl design like this, which is a very common design for awls in trade along the frontier, I've taken this side and made it round and turned it into a bodkin. That gives me a little bit more of a multifunctional tool, because now it's not only a boring tool, but it's also a bodkin that I can use for basketry, for sliding in and separating fibers or weaves in baskets without slicing into them with these sharp edges. So it's a more multifunctional tool for a kit if you're going to carry a tool roll or something like that. And then in this tool roll, I have a very small, this is about just a little shade bigger probably than a traditional trade awl would have been. The ones we saw on our website are just a little bit smaller than this. This one's hand forged by me. It's sharpened on both sides to a square, comes up to a little under 1/4 of an inch here, and this would be what I would call a moccasin or leather awl. So you have a leather awl here, or a moccasin awl. You have more of a bodkin type awl here, which could be used for basketry or drilling things out. And then you have a fairly heavy duty, or what I would consider like an industrial camp awl, for doing all sorts of tasks. It's got a heavy handle. I can get really good grip on it. I can push down on it really hard to press it through. Stubborn material, and it gives me something to hang on to really bore holes with. So again, this is more of a crafting type awl, where these are more like kit awls. This one would be something like you would carry if you were trying to repair leather goods and things like that. This one would be more of a bushcraft style awl. So if I were picking one of these 3 to put into a kit, I would probably pick this one for functionality. I would pick this one for the size and weight if I were just trying to carry it in a haversack or something like that. And then I would pick a large craft awl like this if I were putting this thing into like a camp toolbox or something along those lines. Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. What I thought we'd do this morning is make an antler handled awl to go in our kit, and we're going to talk a little bit about that 5-tool rule, but in particular we're going to talk about awls today and why awls are part of that 5-tool rule concept that I teach here at the Pathfinder School. So we're going to take a piece of 1095 and we're going to pound out an awl on the forge here, and then we're going to mount it in an antler handle, and then we'll talk some more about awls. Stay with me. Folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me for this video today. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.